Be a quiz on this material online that closes midnight Tuesday, midnight tomorrow. So get the book, read the chapter. You might find this stuff useful too. All right, so cloud computing, we're all talking about it, right? We're doing things on the cloud. What's the cloud? You know, that's a question that not many people want to answer. The clouds are computers that belong to somebody else, right? They're big servers in big server farms. Are they doing it for free? No, right? These, you know, Google, IBM, Microsoft, and lots of other companies are supporting these, and they are making money. All right? But we're doing this all the time, right? I mean, I pull out my cell phone, I'm lost, right? Google Maps, I find what, is Google learning anything from that? Where am I? You know, and I'm going, gosh, I want to find so-and-so Italian restaurant. Oh, he likes Italian food, does he? They're selling this information. Cloud computing is hugely powerful. It allows me to, I literally, in my pocket, carry around a device that allows me to access all the great works of literature, art, science, engineering in my pocket. And I use it to find Italian restaurants. Okay? But cloud computing is out there, and the focus is to make someone money. All right? Now, if you're cool with that, that's fine. But just remember that you're not the customer. You're the product. All right? And yeah, I use cloud computing all the time, right? Cloud computing gives us some powerful tools. Google Docs has spreadsheets and word processors and drawing and forms and all kinds of other things. And initially it's free. I tell you what, you know, I was in 2 startups. I consulted for probably half a dozen more. I would tell you without a doubt, if I were to do another startup, I would have it set up on the cloud. I would do all of our word processing, spreadsheets, all that kind of stuff I'd store it on the cloud. Partially because in the first, you know, especially at AHA, but also at Trigeo, we didn't have an office initially, and we moved a bunch while we looked for good real estate. All that stuff would have been on the cloud. We wouldn't have to, we just come in, set up our wireless network, and go. It would have been cheaper, right? Because it's free. Later on, why they start charging you for it, right? And they add new features, calendars, emails, what have you. But the cloud computing actually has an advantage. It is driving a new wave of entrepreneur, okay? Entrepreneurialism is what has pulled the America and the world out of every single depression, right? Big companies will sustain it, but the thing that kickstarts it and gets it going is 4 guys in a garage with a squirrely idea. And if I knew who they were, I'd be investing in them. But they're out there, right? And this makes it easier for them. It also makes it easier for people like Google to know what they're doing and where they're at. What's technology doing, right? This stuff looks a lot like other tools, right? I mean, Excel, right? Microsoft is doing that. They've got it online. They allow you to, in fact, they want you to store everything online, right? They've got OneDrive. Again, they're not doing it for free. Let's talk about what the computer industry has done and why it's important, right? 2 different types of computers are out there. We've got our personal computer, right? And we've got a server. Servers are what power the cloud. Servers are more powerful computers. They have more memory, more processors, and more internet capability. They can attach to these things. So let's look at some of these companies. We have IBM. Annual revenue has stayed, you know, and still is, you know, out into the future, staying very constant. They have sold over their time, lots of PCs. They've gotten out of that market, but they've been in the server market and in the big computer market. Let's look at this one. That's Hewlett Packard. Hewlett Packard makes its money selling servers. They sell many. They have some personal computers, but they farmed that out to Dell. They sell servers. Dell, right? Apple. Look at what Apple's doing, right? They've got that dog leg in their revenue curve. Why? They are moving from the personal computer market to the server market. In the personal computer market, the drive is to get the price as low as possible, so I'll buy one. The server market, they're looking at a bunch of different factors, one of them being performance. Now, if you look at net income, you'll see folks like Apple, HP, IBM, they're making lots more money. They're making lots more money selling servers because there's more markup in that industry. So they can charge a premium. Why, so we talk about business dynamics, market dynamics. How can you charge a premium? Well, let's take a little tour down marketing lane here for a minute. I can go over to the Commons and I can get a cup of drip coffee for $1 if I bring my own cup. Or I can go to Starbucks and pay $5 for a cup of coffee. Why can Starbucks charge more? And the answer is that they're not just providing coffee, right? They're providing an atmosphere. They are providing a different set of flavors. And I'm old school. I like the coffee flavored coffee, but lots of folks don't. Same thing applies here. I can have a computer in my office, but if I want to be able to do a lot of the things that people are doing on the web, I need a lot more performance. And I can, and by providing that, they can get a premium. The server market is booming, right? This is where data is being stored. And they're being stored on things like databases, which is in chapter 4, all right? So today, this is a Bill Gates quote, today you always know whether you're on the internet or on your PC's hard drive. Tomorrow you will not care and you may not even know. You don't know where your stuff's going to be stored. And it's getting more and more that way as you go. And you got to ask yourself if that's a good thing or a bad thing, right? Stored on the cloud, your information is always available, right? I can work from any computer, doing any place I want, which is cool. The bad news is Microsoft knows about it, unless you've encrypted it, and a whole bunch of other problems. So think about that. I want to talk about databases. Why do I want to talk about databases? The database is arguably the most important piece of software we've come up with after the operating system. Right? The operating system allows the computer to come up and be functional. And then we do more and more things with the database, like serve up web pages from a database. E-commerce is often done on a database. Banking and accounting are databases. And the whole realm of big data and that is driven by databases. So we're going to start small. We're going to talk about how to do a relational database in a little while, and then I'm going to talk briefly about non-SQL, non-relational databases, but the concept's critical, right? One of the primary things we use computers for is to store and retrieve information. If we can't do that well, the cloud goes away. That's what the cloud's for. So we want to know about databases. Because, the question comes up, what's left about us that is not in some database somewhere? You've got your school records, your employment records. If you have any legal proceedings, those are out there online. If you're ever in the newspaper, I retrieved a picture of when I was 8 years old, when I grew a sunflower that was 10 feet tall. picture, newspaper. It's all online. You can get that information. Now, that's a recent development. All right? Initially, computers and people who use computers had everything all encompassed in one unit, and they tried to solve problems. Now, to be fair, computers were much, much less powerful in those days. And we weren't looking at the problem holistically. We were looking at solving little problems. So we solved little bitty problems. We did the accounts payable. We did payroll. We tracked our customer base, did little problems. Okay? And so the application owned each file. The data structure was specific to that program, to that application, and as a result, it was very difficult to translate that data from one to another, right? I had to dig way back to get this. This is Quicken 2000, a very old accounting package. And if you actually look at this screen, the one that comes up, this is an old-fashioned check register. Now, how did I know, how was I able to get this? Well, I had this. This is what I used to track my family budget. And then the new version of Quicken came out, and the data wouldn't transfer. Yes, I said all kinds of words that we will not utter in this room, but the application owns the data, right? And the focus becomes on the individual needs of the department, not of the company or of the individual, right? And we're process driven. Why? Computers were very one lung. They didn't have that much horsepower. They couldn't do very much computational compared to what they do now. So that we're focused on making our processes efficient. Data efficiency was driven by how do we support the processes. And the data definitions reside in the programs and in the head of the programmer. And it becomes dependent upon the programmer. I'm going to tell you about my senior project when I was an undergraduate. It's actually a pretty cool project. It was a statistical development this does connect, trust me, it does connect, right? It is part of what we're talking about. It did calculations, they did surveys of fishermen who were fishing in various trout streams in Montana, and they'd plug in that information and it would estimate fish populations. It was done statistically. This became the genesis of what I have termed for most of my life the program from hell. And these attributes are heart and soul of why it became the program from hell. So I had a whole semester to work on my final project. But I was your standard undergraduate student, so I didn't start till about 3 or 4 weeks before the end of the semester. And the project was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. So I worked, like an animal for 4 weeks. And I got this thing working, okay? And in other parts of the class, you'll hear more about this later. I did all of the mistakes that everyone does when they're writing software code. It wasn't modular, it was one monolithic piece of code to keep things so that they would run on our computer there at the university. My variable names were A, B, C, D. Holler with cards, right? Had to keep it short. And so I wrote this thing, and it worked, which boggled my mind. But it started working Friday afternoon. I graduated Sunday, or Saturday rather. Took off Sunday. I thought I'd never see this thing again. I was commissioned in the Air Force. I became a serving Air Force officer. I was in undergraduate navigator training. And 6 months go along, and that's great. I get a phone call. Hi, is this Mark Rounds? And my first response was, who wants to know? But now this is the state of Montana. We're the Fish and Wildlife. You know that program you wrote for us? And I had this cold lump in my stomach. I thought, the jig is up. It doesn't work. And so I said, yeah, I remember. He goes, well, it works fine. Does what we want. Does everything we want. But the reports are really kind of clunky. Well, yeah, I did them at 3 o'clock in the morning. Of course they're going to be clunky. We'd like you to come fix them. I'm a serving officer in the Air Force. I can't do this. I mean, I'm 1,000 miles away. And they said, what would you say to $25 an hour plus expenses? Realizing that in that day, 1978, I was making $666 a month plus $100 a month flight pay. I said, can I work over Christmas? And so I showed up and got enough money to buy my wife a car. A good, for us, a good car from that gig. And I thought, oh, that's not bad. I'm not making this up. For the next 25 years, I kept getting pulled into this program. Now the problem is, there was only one person in the world who could do this.